The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another Ask the Expert, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We get so many emails from you, and people go, I don't think you're ever going to read this, but I'm going to prove to you that we read them all. We have gotten so many emails from listeners and viewers asking us to bring a show on asbestos. And first of all, it's not that easy finding the top people, but we were so lucky. We found a law firm called Mandelbrot Law Firm. And you are going to love Michael. But all you folks who've been asking us to bring a show like this, we are bringing a show like this. And this is going to be probably one of the best shows we've ever done, because I was shocked how many people out there really had an interest in this area. So let me welcome you to attorney Michael Mandelbrot. Good afternoon, attorney.
Thank you. And Stephen, what an introduction that was. I really appreciate it. I have dedicated my career to assisting asbestos victims. You've got a wonderful show on the air, this Ask the Experts, and I just was excited to jump at the opportunity to speak with you, your viewers, and your fans.
I got to tell you, we kind of put the word out there, and just to show you how intelligent Michael is, he was the first one out of 8 law firms across the country that wanted this spot. But we've got Michael now for the next 6 months. We're so excited about that. First of all, Michael, tell everybody about yourself and your firm.
Thank you. Well, my name, of course, is Michael Mandelbrot. I have been an attorney now for about 30 years. Right out of law school, I began working at a law firm that represented victims of asbestos-related diseases and cancers. For the first 10 or 15 years of my career, I traveled around the country taking videotape trial depositions of victims of mesothelioma. I have always been on the plaintiff's side. Oftentimes these depositions would be in various cities, whatever city a victim was in, and it would be me and maybe 50 lawyers on the other side representing the asbestos companies. I really dove into this litigation really almost immediately, and now have become one of the as I would call it, one of the experts, but also one of the most honest lawyers in asbestos litigation. You see a lot of commercials on TV, $30 billion funds, hire us for a free book. I know all these guys, and it's very important to me to not just represent victims of mesothelioma, but represent victims of all asbestos-related diseases and help anybody who is entitled to compensation. I'm very proud to say that I have never sent out a bill in my 30-year career. That's just not how we do things. You see those commercials on TV, no fee unless we win. I am a contingency lawyer, which means, in essence, I've got skin in the game. Typically, We sign up clients on a 1/3 retainer, and if we are successful, then we get 1/3 of the settlements. And I really like and appreciate the litigation that I've fallen into, and these clients and these victims of asbestos diseases really mean a lot to me.
You know, Michael, there's something I just don't understand, because we see the TV ads and all the different ads, and this has been going on for such a long time. Come, this hadn't stopped a long time ago. Why is there still exposure out there?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say there's as much exposure as there was 30 or 40 years ago, but let me put it to you this way. In approximately 1975, we'll say, asbestos was taken out of 95% of products. It remained in some products, such as brakes, gaskets, and other products later than that. But asbestos was taken out of products such as drywall, insulation, and a variety of other products, typically by 1975. So if somebody is exposed after 1975, it is usually from rip out or removal of existing asbestos materials. They may be a demolition contractor, they may work in a shipyard where they're doing repairs to a ship. So they're not exposed to new asbestos products, but there's still exposure because all the existing asbestos that was put into place before 1975 has not been abated or has not been removed. Now, I qualify that because, you know, as lawyers in this field, we discover new information about products that had asbestos all of the time. And I'm sure, Stephen, you've probably seen in the news recently about Johnson and Johnson's baby powder. Johnson and Johnson denied that their baby powder was contaminated with asbestos for many, many, many years and continued to deny the same. But recently, as attorneys, we uncovered what I believe is irrefutable evidence that their baby powder did have asbestos in it. And as you've probably seen, you can't walk into a Safeway or a CVS today and find Johnson and Johnson's baby powder, a product that every one of us used, on the shelves anymore, because they've taken that off the shelves. Now, they still dispute, of course, that asbestos was ever a component, but through a number of trial successes and expert testing, I don't think there's any question that up until the mid to late 90s, it did have asbestos in it.
Wow.
The one thing that is very important, and I want all the listeners to understand, is that anybody who's exposed to asbestos, you never get sick right away. You don't get sick within a year. You don't get sick within 5 years. You don't get sick within 10 years. I mean, I get calls every week. I rented a home and there's asbestos in it. Do I have a case? I just worked on a job and there's asbestos on that job. Do I have a case? And usually the answer is no, you don't. Because when somebody's exposed to asbestos, it never develops into an asbestos disease right away. The latency period between exposure and development of disease is, in my experience, a minimum of 15 years and as long as 60 years. So someone may have been exposed, so we're in 2024 right now. If someone was exposed in 2000, then maybe it's developed into a disease by 2024. If they were exposed in the 70s, 80s, 90s, of course by now in 2024, if they develop mesothelioma, those exposures played a role. However, if they develop mesothelioma today and they had exposure to asbestos last year, those exposures last year do not play a role. They probably would not have contributed to the disease. That person would have developed the mesothelioma from exposures that occurred 15 or more years ago. And I
Michael,
will
how do
add to
you
that.
know?
Well,
How do
that's
you
what makes
know?
it's a great question, and that's what makes our cases so challenging, Stephen, is oftentimes we take off our suits and we aren't lawyers, but we're investigators, because our job really, if somebody has an asbestos disease, is to try and determine when and how they were exposed to asbestos. Now, it is always very difficult, but typically, you start by interviewing your client and getting a full picture of their work history. Now, many of these cases started in the shipyards. So and every military installation built before 1975 had asbestos. So the first question usually is, were you ever in the military? And then you find out their military background. Now, if they were in the Navy and they were on ships, I've got records of every ship that was in the Navy fleet, when it was built, where it was built. Then we go back to the construction records and we can see who built it, what insulation was spec'd for that ship, and who the manufacturer was. And so by really investigating in every case, their work history, uh, the various products they were exposed to, we can typically come to a conclusion. We don't have to show the place where they had the most exposure to asbestos. We just have to show that they had an exposure to asbestos that contributed to their disease. And the standard is different in different states. It might be a substantial factor, but from my experience, maybe a week of exposure to asbestos is significant enough to contribute to disease. Understand, asbestos was in hundreds, if not thousands, of products. I'll I'll ask you the question, but then I'll answer it. Do you know why asbestos was in so many products prior to 1975? The answer is,
Cheap? Is it? It's cheaper.
well, that was one, but it's insulation properties. It made as an incredible insulator. So it was used as pipe insulation on ships. It was used on boilers. Those popcorn ceilings that we all remember in our homes and our apartments growing up. Drywall, flooring, roofing, stucco, you name it, because of its insulation properties, it was used in many, many, many construction products. It was used in curtains, but it also had some properties that, believe it or not, up until 1957, there was a cigarette, the Kent Micronite cigarette, that had asbestos in the filter. Every filter had about 30 million asbestos fibers in it. Every filter. And so,
Wow.
these fibers, you can't see them with the, you can't see them with the eye. If there's light shining in and there's a high volume of fibers, maybe you can see some shiny light, as a flecking, as they describe it. But it's not something you can see with the naked eye.
What did I used to hear that it was usually products that came from China?
That would be presumably after 1975. We were highly dependent on our own industries for construction, shipping, military. These companies, and there is dozens and dozens of them. They were, I'd say 90% of them that I have seen as defendants in my career, 99% are American companies. Now, over time, some of those companies may have been bought by a company out of South Africa or a company out of Canada or a company elsewhere. But these products were the asbestos was mined it was mined in the United States and California, it was mined in Canada, and it was mined in South Africa primarily. The raw asbestos was then brought to the United States, sold either directly to product manufacturers or sold through brokers to product manufacturers who actually brokered asbestos. But it was more a real domestic problem that we had here in the U.S. And there was a mine in California, the Calidria mine, who supplied an incredible amount of asbestos. The asbestos that came from South Africa was a different type of fiber, a shorter type of fiber, that was also used. And now that you mention it, there was a company out of Italy that made an asbestos cement pipe. People know it as transite pipe, but transite is made by a company, Johns Manville, who you've probably heard of in the US. And their product was like a competitor that was used in the United States. Eternit was their name. But these are mostly domestic companies. One thing I want to make sure I meant. Oh, sorry,
Michael.
Go
how
ahead,
much
Steve.
of your practice is dedicated to asbestos?
100% representing victims of asbestos diseases, and really, there's different parts of that because as a lawyer who represents victims of asbestos diseases, we can get them compensation from a variety of sources. Of course, we can sue solvent companies. An example would be General Electric, who made turbines that were used at power plants, shipyards, refineries, Westinghouse. These are companies that are still solvent. If somebody is diagnosed with an asbestos-related disease, we decide to bring a case, we can go after them and sue them. But there are other avenues to get compensation for victims of asbestos disease. And this is something that I really wanted to talk about because I'm sure everybody out there has seen the commercials. $30 billion available. There's $30 billion out there. And I guess you could say that's true. There is $30 billion set aside for victims of asbestos-related diseases. But what does this $30 billion represent? Okay. 25 years ago, that 30 billion was zero. Okay. Johns Manville, one of the first companies to file for bankruptcy because of the weight of asbestos related disease lawsuits. Johns Manville set up a trust fund for victims of asbestos disease. Now, to access the Johns Manville Trust Fund, you can't sue them because they filed effectively for bankruptcy under 524G of the bankruptcy code. You can't sue them. The only way you can get compensation from Johns Manville today, if you are a victim of asbestos disease, is filing a claim with their trust fund. And when they filed for bankruptcy, in order to reorganize and continue as Johns Manville like they do today, they had to set up this trust fund. when they set up their trust fund, let's say that trust fund had approximately, we'll say $1 billion in it. Okay. So out of that 30 billion, that's 1 billion, we'll say. Now, that $1 billion is supposed to pay not just victims of asbestos disease from Johns Manville in the past, but also victims of asbestos today. They need to be able to file a claim, and there needs to be money left in that fund for future victims. Now, over time, there was a number of Johns Manvilles, meaning companies that made asbestos products that exposed people, got them sick. Those companies got sued thousands and thousands of times and went bankrupt. Companies such as Celotex, Owens Corning Fiberglass, the Pink Panther. I'm sure you guys
Yes.
probably remember them. Well, they made an asbestos product called Kalo, faced thousands and thousands and thousands of cases across the country, ultimately filed for bankruptcy and set up a trust fund. As we sit here today, there has been over 1 million asbestos cases filed across the country. That's say over the last
Wow.
40 years. And as a result of that,
Wow.
after Johns Manville and after Celotex, these companies started falling like dominoes, one after the other. And there is now, I'm going to give you a close estimate, about 60 of these trust funds set up for asbestos victims that we can access without ever filing a lawsuit. And if you combined all the money in those 60 trust funds, that equals about $30 billion. And so when you see those commercials, 30 billion is available. That's true. There's $30 billion in these trust funds. Now, hopefully in a later episode, I can talk more about these trust funds because there is a lot of problems with the oversight and the operation of these trust funds. But nonetheless, these trust funds are available, and in some cases, individual claims for a victim of mesothelioma with the trust funds can easily yield well over $1 million, and that's without ever going to court. So the $30 billion, what that is, let's call that bankrupt companies' trust fund money set aside for victims. That if we can prove you were exposed to Johns Manville's product, we can get you paid if you're sick. Or if we can show you were exposed to Owens Corning's product, we can get you paid from their trust fund. But nobody's getting $30 billion. It's just the trusts are set up to pay a victim of mesothelioma a certain amount, a victim of lung cancer a certain amount. And I don't know how much more time we have, but I know we're almost running out of time.
Yeah, we've only got a minute left. You know what, Michael, I told you the show goes by fast, but I can't believe I have got so many more questions. I've got people who are texting us questions. I cannot wait for our next show. Give everybody your phone number and your website.
Great. My phone number is 1-800-970-DUST. That's DUST, 3878. Local number is 415-895-5175. I am located here in the Bay Area in California, Novato. I'm licensed in both California and Oregon. And we've only talked about mesothelioma, but we also help people with lung cancer, asbestosis, and various other cancers as well related to asbestos. So, Stephen,
Wow.
Thank you very much for your time.
I can't wait. You'll be back with us again next month, and people are already complaining that your show's over. Hey, Michael, thank you so much, and we'll see you again next month.
I appreciate it, Stephen. I had a great time. See you next month.
You did great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to go to break. When we come back, we've got our next expert, another great, great show talking about tax relief. We'll be right back.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. You know, there's a tough subject to talk about when it comes to taxes. And the thing is, we're bringing you a show that's going to put a smile on your face because we found a company, Federal Tax Law Group, that is so good that you should not try to do this yourself. That when you have the IRS coming at you, listen, they are very good at what they do. And that's why you got to make the playing field a little level. And that's what Federal Tax Law Group does. And let me welcome you to our experts from Federal Tax. Good afternoon.
They are not with us
Oh,
yet.
they're not here yet. Oh my gosh. Okay. While we're waiting for Ryan and Rachel to come on, we found this company about 2 months ago, and they are without a doubt one of the top federal companies. You know what, Rebel, we have our long commercial. Let's see if we can put that on, and I'm going to email them to see where they're at. Can we do that?
Yep, here we go.
Okay.
K. Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. We're still waiting on Ryan and Rachel to come on. While we're doing that, just a little bit about the Ask the Expert show. This is our 12th year. We used to be on radio on all the top radio stations in the country, but I got to tell you, podcast is the way to go. This is how to do it. And we are so excited that we were able to find a company like W4CY. They are the top, I say, one of the top podcast companies in the country. We're on about 60-something platforms. What we do is we find the experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. And we bring you on. Our segments are 25-minute segments once a month, and we give you the most incredible audience. So if you are in the health field, legal, home improvement, financial, our show is so strong, basically because we've been here around for 12 years, which is a long time. And we've always got, I'm telling you, the top experts in the country. I guess we're still waiting on Ryan and Rachel to come on. I just emailed them this afternoon, so they should be coming on any minute. But getting back to Ask the Experts, we are podcast, radio, and streaming television. What I like about the streaming television is we can give our experts a copy of the show, a video of the show, and they can actually put it on their website, which will draw a lot more clients to the website. We just offer so much more. We work with iHeart Radio, with YouTube, Facebook, all Spotify, all the big companies. We have, without a doubt, I'm going to put a smile on our great producer Rebel's face. We have the greatest producers. I've been doing this for a long time. If you don't have a good producer, you're in a lot of trouble. So we offer everything that you could possibly want. As a listener or as a viewer, it is wonderful to have so many educational shows. And it's not like a big advertisement. It's truly educational. If you just listen to our last show, Asbestos, we have been getting people email us saying, how come you don't do anything with mesothelioma, asbestos? And it's not easy finding someone who is the top. And we wanted someone that this is all they do in their practice. So if you can imagine being able to go to somebody who's going to give you the honest truth because they deal in this every day, like Michael, our last guest, does. This is all he does. So when you come to see him, he's not going to blow smoke and tell you, make promises to you he can't keep, because I guarantee you he has probably seen cases like yours before. But a lot of our shows are personal injury. We do a lot with estate planning, a lot with weight loss. We're doing a lot of shows with this skinny injection, which is probably one of the hottest things in the country now. We've got shows on that. We have shows on criminal law, tax relief, like the show we are waiting on now. When we get into financial, it's usually things on investments, and we're really careful about the experts we bring on in investments. But in the 12 years, we have never, I better knock on wood somewhere, Rebel, but in 12 years, we have never had a complaint about any of our viewers or listeners getting hurt by any of our experts. Anything saying that they got bad information. It's always been so complimentary, and it's mainly because we really do screen our experts. Can we run our long ad again? This might be them trying to call in, Rebel.
Okie dokie. Give me a second and I will pull that right back up for you.
Okay.
And here we go.
K. Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. I did just get an email from them wanting the link to come on, which is surprising because I have sent it to them twice already, but sometimes those things happen. See, we do a live show. Many shows out there are pre-recorded. We do a live show, and listen, sometimes we have technical difficulties. Sometimes the expert is running late. I did send them the link. I don't know why they haven't received it yet. We're going to give them a few more minutes and see if they can hop on. It's a very important show when it comes to tax relief. And, I think that we're probably best just to reschedule them because I want them on the full time. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to reschedule them, Rebel, and cut the show short because I want them to get their full time in. So I apologize by not having our tax relief specialist with Federal Tax Group. I'm going to reschedule, get them back on as soon as possible. We will be with you again next week with more Ask the Experts. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Have a good week.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.